Steve. How's your week been?
Not too bad. You look like you're in a cave somewhere with your black backdrop. It is
Yeah,
so black.
I've been moving things around, and I gave it a wash, so it's
Yeah,
not so creased.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wash it, a little iron, a little steam out.
Oh, I haven't given it an iron. Don't even know where an iron is here in all my stuff at the moment.
Yeah.
So haven't got that far. Haven't got that far.
Well, anybody
Yeah.
that's online, please pipe up. Let us know you're here in the chat.
Yeah.
Let's
Who's
love
with
to hello
us?
to folks. We got a few interesting things to talk about today. Maybe. If you don't think they're interesting, well, that's your problem.
Let's see. I don't even know if I've got
Hey,
live chat
Scott,
up.
Scott's joined us.
Yeah, I don't have live chat up. Let me just refresh my screen. See if I can get it.
There's Ken's popped up. Well,
Ken's
interesting.
there.
I'd
Awesome.
say somewhat interesting. We had a couple big things happen, right? We had the two things. Hack for Good happened this past weekend, and MBAS starts tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And you were pretty active in Hack for Good. Maybe you want to fill people in on what the heck was going on with that.
Yeah, so Hack for Good was put together rapidly at the last minute as a request around MBAS. So it's the Microsoft Hack for Good MBAS, Microsoft Business Application Summit, and it was phenomenal. Like the last time we did a virtual hack, I think we had 70 people involved. This had, I think, between 250 and 300 people.
Jeez.
Hacking all around the globe over a 24-hour period. So like follow the sun. So we had Australia, New Zealand, India. Those are the three kind of groups I was responsible for, with Eliza Benitez judging.
Yeah.
And then there was EMEA, which had something like 20 or 30 teams in EMEA.
Yeah.
And then America had been 10 or 15 teams, or the Americas. And so it was just an absolute phenomenal event. Some amazingly talented people come together and built solutions on the Power Platform, some that had never touched it before. The one that specifically in New Zealand was a kind of contactless way of registering at a cafe or restaurant. So, what happens is that the health department in New Zealand requires that if you have a shop like that open, you have to record everybody that comes in, their address and their contact phone number, and agree that it be shared with the health department.
Wow.
So that is the health and safety requirement to allow somebody into your premise as a business. While COVID-19 is so we had emergency powers enacted under the Health Act, and so what this team did, which was phenomenal. So you could walk up to the screen and say register, and it would, basically have a microphone on screen that, and it would say, read the following statement. And so you'd go, my name is, and it would be a blank. So you'd say, my name is Mark Smith, and I live, and so then it would say, I live at, and the address. And as you went through this process, it had Lewis running behind the scenes. So Microsoft's, language engine. It was a Power App, and it would translate that and fill in all the fields in the form, and then say, "Would you like to submit?" You'd go yes, and it would submit the form, and that was now registered, within the app. But 100%, no touching.
Yeah, neat. So the thinking there is that if somebody in the store got the virus, they could figure out who else was in that store at the same time, or things like that.
Yeah,
to be able to reach out and do that contact tracing stuff.
So in New Zealand, contact tracing has been a big deal. So when a cluster is identified, it's very quick around who are all the people associated with that. Let's test them to see what the spread is. And so what this would allow happen is that, let's say, Mark Smith walks into a shop, 3 days later, I'm identified as having COVID-19. They would then ask me, where have you been? And our government's asked everybody to keep a diary of where they go each day. Just, and so that you can go back to them and go, listen, I went to you know, I went to XYZ store, and then they contact the XYZ store and say, listen, can we have a list of everybody that came in because they might have got exposed? And so we
Interesting.
want to do
So
some
here's where
contact
we are
tracing.
in the US. Most of these states yesterday came off quarantine. And,
Wow.
and businesses are allowed to reopen under certain parameters. For example, restaurants can open, but only 25% of their normal capacity.
Okay.
So the idea they're spreading tables out.
Yep.
And other businesses are opening, and it's you would think that it's all over. You know, it seems like we had the slightest flattening of the upward trajectory. We definitely didn't get flat. You know, it definitely isn't coming down. But it's the slightest bit of positivity, and here we are in the U.S. Oh, let's go reopen. You know,
so
yep.
Here's the crazy thing. The way I understand it is there's nothing different than where we were 2 months ago. The virus is still just as active, etc. There's no cure for it. So therefore, if all of a sudden it starts spreading again, do we have to then ricochet back into a quarantine scenario?
I think that is the gamble that's being taken, is that we know the original projections for the US in particular were dire, and we know that we haven't gotten anywhere near those.
Yeah.
It didn't end up coming anywhere near the original projections. So I think there's certainly a part of the population that's thinking, you know what, if we had known the reality of what this ended up being, we wouldn't have shut down the whole damn country.
Yeah.
I mean, we shut down, we killed the entire country and economy based on projections that were scary that didn't come to fruition.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I think that that's part of what's driving this. Let's get things back open, and even if things start popping back up, you know, we already know because we've done it. We know what it looks like, and you know, it's survivable from an economic standpoint versus the trade-off of, obviously there'll be some more people a little bit die as a result, but you know, it's a trade-off they're making. And hey, you know what, if I'm an older person or I'm somebody who is at risk, okay, maybe I'm not going to the fucking restaurant tonight. You know, maybe I'm going to stay in my place a little longer, you know. So there's nothing forcing you to have to go out and interact if you're a susceptible person. So I guess we'll see what happens. I think they've just decided that, you know what, I think there's a sense that they overreacted based on bad numbers and shut down the whole economy and shouldn't have. That'll be a big debate coming up, I'm sure. We're 6 months away from a presidential election.
Yeah. No, because that's going to affect a lot. So I see some folks have joined us today. Ken, who won India? It was on my screen right there. There you go. Go check out. I put a post up on LinkedIn with the winners. There's a separate post for India and another post for APAC region. Who else has joined us? So
is there going to be an overall winner?
Yeah, so that's announced at Embass.
That's one Charles.
So Ryan Cunningham is doing the final review of the submissions. So I think 2 came in from Europe, 1 or 2 from the US, and then 2 one from India and 1 from APAC. So I think he has to look at 6. Prashant, how are you? Shirley, welcome. Todd. Hey, Todd. What are you doing on the line? I hear you're a blue badge now. Is that right? The first, I think I've got that right. I hope you're a blue badge. I'm just reading between the line. Patty's joined us.
If he thinks that blue badge is going to change our conversation, he would be
Scott Roller, he sent through a bunch of links this week. Greg, how are you, Greg? Greg is the name of my Toyota Hilux. Actually, was it Scott Roller or was it Greg that sent them through? Greg sent them through, I think. I forget. But anyhow, I've got a couple of them up on screen, and one of them is around ZNet had on their website, Microsoft Office 365 US issues security alert over rushed remote deployments. What are your thoughts on that, Steve? I know we had a bit of a chat before jumping on, but it's no surprising, right? If you got partners with global admin rights and stuff, There is a
Well, I
risk
think
that it's not locked down properly. It's not
I think
necessary that it's a technical risk. It's more of a user-based risk.
Yeah, I think that, I've logged into, or I've sent customers my delegated admin link and they've accepted my and it says right on there, hey, listen, you're giving this dude access to kind of do whatever he wants. And, I get in their tenant. And one of the first things I'll do is go look and see what other partners are in that tenant in case I need to coordinate with someone or just to know what's going on. And I don't know how many times I've logged into somebody's tenant, looked at their partner list and seen, like 10 different partners in there, some of which they haven't dealt with in years. And then the customer is like oblivious that all of these people still have delegated admin access. Well, I mean, the whole is that delegated admin, there's limits is what a delegated admin can do. I can't go into their billing area. I can't buy licenses as a delegated admin. But one thing I can do is I can go create a user account for myself, give it global admin, and log right back in as the global admin and do anything I want. I've always thought that was a gaping hole in the security and for a company that prides itself on enterprise level security, well, that's only if you got some enterprise security people at the customer paying attention to, oh, we're not using this partner anymore. Let's go. And I have customers don't even know the list of partners is in there. They don't even know who has access to their environment. So I didn't get a chance to read that article to see what these security issues were over rushed remote
So
deployment.
it's about bad implementation of security policy, not using best practices. One of the things is that you talked about being able to create a profile for yourself that then allows you to go back in with basically God mode inside the system. There's a security term for that you are never. That there's one of the tests that they run, and I forget the terminology. It's kind of like if you had authority in a company to sign off, let's say it's an audit type feature. If you were the auditor of yourself, it flags and says, hang on a second.
Yeah, right.
You can't audit yourself. And like in the same scenario here, you shouldn't be able to give yourself a delegated account. There should be some logic. Hang on a second. Your profile just set that up. You can't go and turn around and give yourself that level of authority when prior to that account entry, you didn't have that level of authority.
It'd be like a user logging in and trying to give themselves global admin.
It says, hang on a second. This is not right.
Yeah.
Hey, John joined us. Dave's there. How are you, Patty? What is saying? Yeah, Hack for Good charity hackathon was run on Saturday. It was absolutely an amazing event. That one, and of course, the winners are going to be announced tomorrow. What I see, I've got to get up at like 1:30 a.m. tonight to be able to attend the MBAS. Now, I don't know if you saw yesterday, Steve, but John Levesque put out a tweet which seems to have disappeared.
Interesting.
And that tweet said that there was over 50,000 people registered for MBAS. Now, last year, how many people attended in person MBAS?
What do we have? 8,000, 6,000, somewhere around
Something
there,
like that, right? I'm wondering if he deleted it because the opening keynote is probably going to talk these numbers, because normally I talk the numbers. And an interesting number I heard the other day was, and this one came from Donna Sakar on the weekend, was Microsoft now have over 3 million people in the Power Platform community. What they're saying is a Power Platform community.
Yeah, I wonder what that means.
That was 1 million last year that James Phillips had up on his slide at the keynote that we're at last year.
I wonder what that means. Power Platform is not, are they counting PowerApps from the Office 365 side in Power Platform? Because,
okay, that post is still on. Prashant said that post is still on LinkedIn. So, okay, this is out there. I knew it flashed past me, and I thought it was on Twitter, but it was on LinkedIn. Okay. So what were you saying? I'm sorry, Steve. What do you reckon the numbers
I know that, we know from looking at Microsoft statistics, they definitely like to color things positive And I
Oh,
get
of
that.
course. Yes.
I mean, they
Yes.
talk about things
That's what
like,
marketing's all about, right? You're not going to talk about
yeah,
your bad
exactly.
stuff. It's only the good.
Like frequently we wouldn't get numbers. We'd get something like 400% year-over-year growth on a product that launched last year.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, I can see the maths.
Yeah, but so you got to wonder when I talk about Power Platform. I mean, Office 365 has some Power Apps capabilities. I don't know if they're considered Power Platform or not because they're not CDS, and I don't know if Power Platform is exclusively CDS or if no, those Power Apps capabilities in Office 365 licenses are part of the platform. Well, in that case, there's certainly millions of users that have access.
Yeah.
So, but I think there'd be way more than 3 million. So does that mean the 3 million of those people actually clicked on it, did something, created a flow to send themselves a reminder on every Friday? And now suddenly does that count, and I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not sure how it's been tracked. I just put the link in there, which is John Levesque's post there saying 50,000 odd folks. What did he say?
Charles had said, not in the last call I had with him, but the one before that I published with him, I think he had talked about, or maybe it was even before that. Yeah,
he said something about running 100,000 people would be possible, right?
Well, he had said, no, he was talking about how the Power Apps is at the inflection point that SharePoint was when it all of a sudden blew up.
Gotcha. Yep.
And that they're at that same kind of an inflection point where Power Apps is just going to explode, and of course, explode to a point to make SharePoint look, like nothing over time. So we'll see. An interesting conversation on Twitter last week. Somebody piping up about this whole CDS and why do we need CDS? That if I could find that, I think I had that up already. And that really it was about this guy was taking the position that hey, companies out there that can't afford CDS licensing, so they're going to build on SharePoint, regardless of whether SharePoint is a good solution for the problem or not. But he was actually taking the position that was the right thing to do. And I've always kind of looked at, what, if I can buy a $20 bill for $10, I'm going to find $10 fucking dollars.
Yeah.
If I can't, well, then the argument is valid. But to tell me that just because they can't afford, which, what can people afford, that they can't afford these licenses, that's why they're building a half-ass shitty solution that doesn't solve the problem on something that's free. It just, the logic of that whole thing seems stupid to me.
Yeah.
If it's not solving the problem, it doesn't matter that it was free. It becomes irrelevant at that point. As a matter of fact, if it's not solving the problem, it's probably worse than free. Because now you're spending time, energy on something that isn't even solving the fucking problem. You're better off with nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, valid. Very valid.
It's interesting the ignorance of people out there. I had a comment on a blog post today, and the post wasn't important so much as the comment. Let me read this to you. Dynamics is for those who have given up the idea that their software solutions can be one of their largest competitive advantages. You give up initial simplicity via commonality for a long-term specialization. You can only deliver a utilitarian minivan and can never even dream of the Ferrari. Dynamics is like WordPress when leaders build custom, like Facebook or Google. So
I don't think that person understands what the product is.
I responded, spoken like someone who has no clue what can be done with Dynamics in the Power Platform, because clearly he doesn't. But
yeah,
it makes you wonder how many people just don't understand what the fuck we're able to do today.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we had trouble before with people even understanding what could have been done with Dynamics, but now the Power Platform has removed even the handcuffs from Dynamics. You can build anything you want. I think I just don't think people have grasped that yet. I don't think Microsoft has done a very good job of letting the world know what they've released into the world. And I don't think they've done a very good job of it, because I think if people understood,
what it was, what the tooling was.
Yeah, we've talked before about customers that, that are on like $115 US license for like sales and service that ended up building all custom entities and really are only using accounts and contacts out of the box. Well,
Yeah.
you talk to them about, you know what, you could potentially drop down to it at no more than a $40 license and potentially even a $10 license. And I think they're thinking that is too good to be true. That can't be possible. Nope, we're going to continue. I had a customer recently that I finally convinced to let's drop off the $95 sales license down to the $40 PowerApps license. And but actually, I was trying to press him because I said, 90% of the users based on a use case can drop all the way down to 10. And he said, no, we'll just stick with the 40. I was like, I feel like I've saved enough. I think it was in his mind that it was already too much to believe that he could go from 95 to 40 without a huge sacrifice. But clearly I can't go to 10 without a huge sacrifice when, based on what he was doing, he absolutely could have all day long. So there's just this kind of ignorance out there that I think we're going to continue battling for a while.
Shirley put up there 26,505 attendees based on the registration as in the schedule tool.
Okay. All right.
By the looks in the event schedule. So that's what's still like that's triple, quadruple what they had, which is absolutely phenomenal. Just to let you know, I've got a contractor arriving in the next 10 minutes or so, so I might have to just pop off screen, which I'll let you handle that. But there's one of the other things that came out this on the 30th. So when we were talking last week, Microsoft published an article saying Microsoft pivots to digital selling with Dynamics 365 to reach more customers. And of course, this is what we were showing at MVP Summit this year, which is Microsoft's, Sales Insight plus Dynamics 365 sales. They've introduced this whole technology around high velocity sales, digital. Well, when I say high velocity is actually Salesforce's term for this type of selling. So this is where sequences are used, kind of everything's that sat in the wheelhouse of Sales Spark. Microsoft has pretty much released everything that was in the Sales Spark application with this new release, which is currently under public preview and will be GAing shortly. Added to that, they bought an omni-channel entirely. So that means if you have your IVR system, your phone system hooked in, it can listen to the conversation and then actually create all your file notes with all your key actions based on what you discussed on that call. So you can go do. So they're seeing it as a game changer for salespeople. And really, actually, I did a podcast this week on 2 days ago with the Amit, who's the lead of this product based in Israel. And, he agreed that with a blog post I wrote last year saying that, Dynamics 365 sales hasn't changed in 16 odd years. I actually called out a number of 20 years because I was saying it's based on 20-year-old thinking. He agreed. He agreed that nothing had really happened in that space, but now it's game on. And so this bit of tech that they're bringing out here, I haven't really drilled into, is it super simple? Because I think for sales folks, if it's not really, absolutely, I don't need to be a functional consultant or be a business analyst or something like that to create these sequences. If it is simple as what they are saying, or as simple as what Sales Spark was, I would expect that this will really sell gangbusters. Interesting, I felt from the conversation, sales is still one of their biggest market segments. That is a consumer of the platform.
Yeah, well, I think that, I think this started out as a CRM product, which is primarily going to be your sales related. They were chasing Salesforce, which was primarily sales. It's always easier to talk people into buying something that's going to generate more revenue, which sales does. Service typically does not. So that's why I think it followed. But this story kind of illuminates, I think, a couple of interesting things. One is kind of aside from this is the ISV story. And you kind of hinted at it that as an ISV, seeing an opportunity to take the, the legacy lead to opportunity process, which, like you say, hasn't changed in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, it's funny. We're in the business of disruption, and we're using, old processes to try and disrupt the business. And this is something that I think I even mentioned with Charles or somebody on one of these calls recently, that this whole lead to opportunity sales process has got to be disrupted. And what's next? What is the next thing that's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, SalesSpark saw an opportunity to try something a little different. Something that was being done outside of the platform by some other folks, which was a little disruptive to that traditional process.
Yeah.
And now here Microsoft is kind of launching the same thing. So as an ISV, and I brought that up with Googs, I said, what do you tell ISVs that go invest time, energy, money to build capabilities that the platform is missing, that you then turn around and launch and completely displace their entire investment? I mean, as an ISV, how am I confident building on your platform that you're not just going to elbow me out of the way if my ISV, I mean, look at Click Dimensions, biggest ISV. Next thing we know, Microsoft's going to build a marketing app. Here the one you were just talking about, SalesSpark, just kind of getting off the ground, but still, boom, now it's been knocked, been knocked pretty good by this effort here. And how is an ISV going to be comfortable? And I think the only answer he kind of had was, you better go vertical. If you're not going to go vertical as an ISV, you are, or maybe that was me telling him, but if you're not going vertical as an ISV, you are sitting on the fence waiting to be shot.
You're dead man standing.
At any point in the future. Yeah, I mean, it's make money as fast as you can, because if you found a good niche that's horizontal, these guys are going to come fill it. They're going to come fill it. They don't need you collecting money. They can collect. I mean, as a result of this right here, this talks about Dynamics 365 sales. So this isn't going to be a Power Platform play. This is a sales place that drives the sales license. They're talking about sales insights, a separate license on top. They're talking about LinkedIn Sales Navigator, a separate license on top. I mean, this thing's probably going to cost $300 or something per user by the time it's all said and done.
Well, see, this is the thing, is that if you don't put Navigator in the mix, it's only $50. As in, it's part of Sales Insight, is my understanding, because I pressed him, is there going to be more licensing costs for this? No, it's going to be bundled as part of Sales Insight. So if you took the Pro plus the $50, that's your total package. So 65 plus, what's that, 50? That's your total outlay if you're running this as a sales. So
is that with Navigator or without it?
No, that's not with Navigator. So Navigator's the bit that I don't know whether these guys don't play ball with LinkedIn, because once again, if you looked at the LinkedIn integration to Dynamics, it's the same thing that was there 8 years ago, before Microsoft, 9-10 years ago. There's no more level of sophistication.
I don't even think it's as good as what used to be there. They step back out of fears that people are going to get afraid of them owning it and taking advantage of the data. They actually step back from what was previously there.
Yeah. And they've moved it into the realm of team member, a license, which means to be in team, LinkedIn team member, you have to have 10 licenses.
Yeah.
And that's the premium. It's like, I just don't get it. Like, I don't get the economics of why they do that. Why, like, I'm fine, sell an enterprise LinkedIn license, but let one person start up with an enterprise license that allows it to integrate to their Dynamics instance. It doesn't allow you to bring any data from LinkedIn into your Dynamics instance. So it's not like they're sharing anything. They're just making it easier to look at two records up on screen at the same time. Why don't they? Well, like, why don't they? Because I tell you what, it would become a killer app. It would become a killer app.
They're sitting there in the marketing department, most likely Alyssa's domain, making the decisions about the pricing and licensing for this stuff. And somebody's bringing up, well, there should be a minimum of 10 seats, and this should be added, and this should, and if anybody in that meeting is bringing up, well, what about smaller businesses? I'm sure they're all just laughing. Who cares about smaller businesses? We're building products and pricing our first party apps are priced for enterprise. If you can't afford this stuff, then don't play the game.
Yeah.
But this is where you and I were talking before the episode started, that it almost feels like, with the exception of enterprise or companies that have got a lot of upside, a huge enough upside potential for the success of something like this to be willing to pay a
Mm-hmm.
huge amount of monthly licensing, that a lot of this ends up being aspirational. But people are going to drop to all I could say is thank God we have PowerApps. What the hell could we sell now if we didn't have PowerApps to
Yeah.
anybody other than an enterprise business
Yeah.
or some kind of a business who, you know, you know, gets a value from something this expensive. And there are companies out there, obviously, people that are very successful using a tool like this to sell very high margin products where, $250 a month of licensing isn't even a consideration.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think they just don't really give a shit about anybody other than that top customer, at least at the first party level.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because there's a big motion out there now through Disty around the sales professional going after SMB,
Mm-mm-mm.
which of course, obviously that annoys me because it's going straight into my territory. But they really feel like
I like that, Ken. Um, uh, so yeah, Rachel says, the Microsoft licensing team definitely built in job security. Totally agree with that, Andrew. He's a small business. And what was the other one there? Yeah, Inside View is a great product, as Prashant is saying. And the beauty of Inside View did allow you to suck in data. I can remember doing a demo. No, you always used to use Unilever as my demo account with Inside View, because you just type in Unilever as the company name and, to a demo with a customer and go, oh, look at this with Inside View. I just put update record and boom, it would fill out all the updated address, phone number, website, who the key contacts were. And they were just like, shit, this is amazing.
I used to use Microsoft Corporation as the demo company, which is pretty unfair, because actually Inside View was pretty good, but if you were targeting smaller businesses, it was kind of garbage.
And it was wasted in New Zealand and Australia because the data set in these countries were just not large enough.
And even the email, especially because lots of people wanted to get emails. They wanted to get the email information, but at least half of the email information coming from Inside View was no good.
Hey, I'm going to pop out to my guy. I just put a link in there around the post that came out yesterday from Googs. I don't know if you want to click that open, because he's obviously pumping the tires of his session that's coming up tomorrow in the Embass. But he's got some claims around numbers. They look like the same numbers that were around 2 years ago. But what do you think of that article and the ISV Connect program? And I'll be back. I'll just go on mute, but I'll be back.
All right, cool. Yeah, I don't know how many of you guys listening are in the ISV space. And yes, Ken Dukes is retiring at the end of this Microsoft year. I don't know who listened to my conversation with him. He mentioned these numbers there as well. It was probably one of my least satisfying conversations with somebody from Microsoft. Googs has a way to use a lot of words to say very little. And as an ISV myself, I'm very interested in what is going to be coming around the corner. And he kind of shucked and jived on all those things about what's coming around the corner, was kind of deferring to some unknown future team who will pick this stuff up. So yeah, now he's launched a post out here bragging about the number of ISVs that signed up. Well, I mean, like we had a choice. If we didn't sign up, we were out of the program. So, having 1,000 ISVs sign up is, to me, obvious, because we either signed up or we got the hell out. Would have been removed. Now, having 1,000 certified apps, meaning that of those ISVs, many of which did not have any success with AppSource at all, or Microsoft's ISV effort, and only got their success on their own. The fact that 1,000 people or 1,000 apps were recertified for the new platform, that probably says more, because that's showing some confidence, at least, because there were a hell of a lot more than 1,000 apps in AppSource before, many of which just got abandoned. Oh, you're back already.
Yeah, I'm back already. He's not here, so just have to check on him. Yeah.
False alarm, false alarm. So I was basically just talking about how dissatisfied I was with my talk with Googs the last time about how vague he was on.
Yeah. Oh, I've been listening to you the entire time. I've had my headset in, so.
I think as an ISV, I'm nervous about what Microsoft is actually going to do. We've heard. I probably need to get Julie on because she's
Julie Strauss.
Yeah, she's taken a much more expanded role.
I don't know that she's in ISV anymore at all. My understanding.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Perhaps she is, but if she is, yeah, I'm not. I don't know.
Maybe I'll just call her out of the blue with a record button on and find out.
I like that. I like that. Yeah,
because clearly Googs. I think Googs came into the ISV motion here fairly single-mindedly. That we need to figure out how we make money as Microsoft in this. Launched a rev share program, and pretty much that's all he did.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything happen that would give me as an ISV any comfort in the fact that Microsoft has a legitimate, true plan for ISV.
No,
and
the problem is it's been yet another situation of this that's gone on for years and years and years. Nobody has got serious like App Exchange with Salesforce, right? App Exchange have just been doing this right for 10 years. Right?
Yeah, sure.
And it's kind of like, can nobody, it just frustrates me. As I keep saying, the person that has broken the system is not going to be able to fix the system, right? If they've created the problem, they're not going to be able to fix the problem. And I fundamentally I don't think there's an appetite to fix it, to do it right, what I have noticed that what they want to do is go out and get big established businesses with big data sets or unique IP, maybe algorithms that do something, specifically in the financial sector. And they want those guys to come in and provide an API into the Power Platform. That's really it, as far as I can see, that they're chasing. And this is based on conversations I'm having with people that are targeted with going out and landing these accounts as part of their KRAs, KPIs, that type of thing, in each financial year for Microsoft.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think there are Microsoft, and strictly thinking about the business applications group, which we're in, it's amazing to me how they can do some things so exceedingly well, beyond your wildest expectation, and something else so absolutely poorly, not living up to the slightest expectation. And it seems to just be about priorities. I mean, I think if you and I, understanding the ISV space, were to look at the actual internal list of Microsoft's, here's our priorities and the order in which we're going to do them for ISVs, we would say that's the stupidest fucking list I've ever seen.
Yeah,
you're doing that completely out of order. One of these things you have at the top is not important to me at all. One of these things you have at the bottom is the highest priority. It's just like they don't have any concept at all of what an ISV is looking for. Part of the reason is they consult. I mean, I scream at them all the time and say that can't help from me, but they get into deep consulting arrangements to understand from the largest of the ISVs. And that's fine if you're the largest of the ISVs, they will try and listen to what you want, but the largest of the ISVs' needs are completely different than the broad ISV ecosystem. I mean, they're very specific to a very large ISV. And I just don't think they have a clue how to put together something that, well, we know, as you said, this has been years. Looking at AppSource again yesterday, it looks no different than the day it fucking launched. I'm talking to that team.
There's one checkbox which says PowerApps now. That's the only addition, because the idea wasn't invented when AppSource went up.
Well, and that checkbox took a year after PowerApps launched to show up. It still doesn't really do very much. I've talked to that team a couple weeks ago. I've got another call scheduled with them about that whole AppSource and and what's wrong with it. And these are sharp engineers, but they're not market people. They're not marketplace people. They've been responsible for making app source technically function better, and just no clue, really no clue what needs to be done. I mean, I think you and I had talked before about if you go to appsource.com landing page, there's a whole bunch of featured apps shown right below the they have a little small black check some boxes, but below that, before you've checked anything, here's a whole bunch of featured apps. What the fuck kind of waste of time in real estate is that? You have no idea who I am or what I might be looking for, yet you're going to suggest an app to me?
Yeah. I mean, exactly.
You don't even know what I want. How can you suggest anything to me before I start that search process and filtering process, that entire landing page? And that's something that we'll see if I have any influence over, but that's something that needs to just be, that whole thing just needs an enema. I mean, it just was piss poorly put together. And the biggest problem that I've had with Microsoft on things like that isn't that they have a bad idea, it's that they never finish it. Somebody comes in all full of piss and vinegar, we're going to make this work, and they start down a path, oh yeah, I got those 10, and I have no illusion now that the people I'm talking to about AppSource, who are all excited about, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They'll do 2 or 3 of those things, and then somebody will switch roles or something, the whole thing will just fucking die on the vine. Again, not finished. They just can't seem to finish. That for all the talk about how important ISVs are and him preaching about it in this post, actions speak louder than words, and their actions are not living up to any of these words. None of these words.
But that's the thing. It's a fluff piece, right? It ain't.
Well, have you ever read a Microsoft blog post that wasn't a fluff piece? I mean, this is the official Microsoft fluff blog. If you want the truth, you gotta go read somebody else's blog, not this one.
Yeah. It's been interesting. I don't know if you've seen Microsoft's quarterly results. They've done very well in this last quarter.
Yep. I mean, you can't argue with the success of cloud. I mean, they're doing well because they finally pivoted to the cloud, and the cloud is the future of everybody. They didn't create that fucking future. They jumped on that bandwagon and have taken advantage of it.
Yeah.
But to be honest, and I don't know how big the BizApps part of that is, but I don't look at how much it's grown. I'm looking at how much it should have grown. Had they made correct decisions, where would it be now? You can brag about where you are, but you know what? That don't mean shit if you should have been twice as far.
Yeah.
Somebody's mentioned here in the chat, let me see who it was, about ignoring SMB. There's another example of the blind leading the blind. So it's a new person now is looking at this SMB customer. I actually had a call with that whole team. The whole new team's been assembled. They discovered that there's a whole bunch of Office 365 partners out there that have a whole bunch of small business customers, and they're not selling them Dynamics 365. And this is a new discovery. We've just discovered this huge gold mine of opportunity. And I'm like, no. This is not a new discovery. This hill has been seen by 10 of your predecessors. The exact same fucking hill has been seen by 10 of them. All 10 of them started to climb that hill and failed. They either gave up before they got to the top, or gave up before they started, or didn't have a map when they went up that hill, and they all failed. And I was actively involved with almost every one of those fucking treks. So they're explaining to me, well, here's the way we're going to approach it this time. And they're explaining the exact same fucking process that they have tried 10 times before.
Yeah.
I mean, like, is there no one on this team that was around for any of these previous efforts? So the latest motion,
which is often the case, right? It's often the case.
It's too often. So they all think that, oh, look, I've just discovered this huge pot of fucking gold. No. 10 other people saw that pot too, and they failed. So I got an idea. Why don't you try pulling that sword out of the stone the exact same way all these other fucks did, and break your back and not do it. Or, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we do something different? So the latest motion, and it's this is going through DISTI, is this idea, and it's all around, first of all, it's around the sales professional. So
Yep.
we got small business customers, right? SMB. We're not going to try and sell them PowerApps. We're going to sell them sales professional. We're going to sell them a $65 license right off the bat. That's the go-to, that's the hero SKU for that SMB. If you've looked at the sales professional, it is not an SMB solution. It's a stripped down version of enterprise with some limits on it. It's not, I mean, as you mentioned, I think, I don't know if it was before the call or during the call, I mean, it's all about simplicity. Oh, it was when you were talking about the sales and stuff. It's not simple. If it's not easy to use, it's going to fail. Well, that's the biggest challenge with Dynamics 365 and SMB. It's always been too complex for them to use. And sales professional is no less complex. It just has a bunch of fucking handicaps on it. You know, it's got one arm tied behind its back, but it's not any easier to use. So they're trying to create an ecosystem of Dynamics partners. And if some of you out there are Dynamics partners, maybe you'd be interested in jumping into this until you hear me finish the story. They want to have some Dynamics partners out there that will work with Office 365 partners via DISTI connection to go out and sell the sales professional license, which of course the Office 365 partner is going to be looking for the license revenue on. So Dynamics partner, there's no license revenue for you in this model. However, they've created a fixed scope model of a list of things that they're going to offer to that end customer for a fixed price, starting at a price that you cannot make any money on, for a list of specific items that probably isn't even what every customer is going to want. So everybody that goes into that motion as a Dynamics partner or SI, the only reason you would go down that path is for potential future revenue from that customer, because you're not going to make a fucking dime by the time the licensed seller takes his cut and the DISTI takes his cut for this whole list of stuff that frankly is not going to work for any customer. I've never seen. I mean, the list of tasks for any two customers is never the same. Why do you think you could standardize? And some of that shit is so vague, like it includes 2 basic workflows. What the fuck is basic? What's basic? What's basic? What, I mean, what is that? That entire deployment for a fixed cost at already not making any money is just going to be a battle with that customer. It's this, and this is again a hill that has been climbed this exact same fucking way before. I already know the outcome of this entire effort. I'm talking to the people that are running that program and say, no, it's going well so far. And I'm thinking, A, you're lying, it's not going well. Or B, the fact that you can sell somebody something doesn't mean they're going to keep paying for it. You know, I mean, if you put enough salespeople and enough motion behind selling, garbage, you can sell garbage to people. They'll buy garbage because you put enough sales motion behind it. But at the end of the day, they're going to realize, oh, wait a minute, I bought garbage. And they're going to toss it out. So it's just so frustrating to me that, and Googs was one, and the people running that program one is, oh, we know how to solve this problem. You've never known how to solve this fucking problem. Why do you continue raising your hand, insisting that you have the solution and not listen to people that actually would have a way to solve the problem?
So, and this is the thing, what I've realized is that there's so many people that have been as well in Microsoft for so long, they've lost touch with really what is happening in the real world, or being able to translate real world into what they do. They look at a list of requirements and look at it from a purely almost scientific point of view. Yes, we can create, like, it's like, can you create a field? We can create a field. Bang, look, so there's your field. No understanding of it in context of other things, of other influences that wrap around it. And this is what, what frustrated me so much with Dynamics 365 marketing. When that product was built and I asked one question on the early access program, I said, who on your team are former marketers that have done this as a job? Like, they do this. That you ever, and it's silence, absolute silence, till finally the moderator spoke up and said, is anyone going to answer Mark's question? and there was this nobody. And I was like, why do you guys keep building shit without actually engaging and getting people that have been and trod this path before and know the problems or know how it works on a day-to-day basis when you're in the role and build accordingly?
So here's how they looked at it is, and that was started by Keyshawn. Keyshawn, who was originally building
he gave me the no. He gave me the no.
He was originally he's at Salesforce now, but he was originally responsible for building the business edition version, which was going to be the SMB motion. And for some reason, they decided in that motion to build a marketing app. And they looked specifically, we don't need anybody that knows anything about marketing. All we need to be able to do is copy Click Dimensions and HubSpot. Go see what they're doing and just technically copy. We don't need to understand why this wheel's connected to that wheel. We don't need to understand why. We just replicate their motor, and there you go. We have a marketing app. And that's why that app struggles so mightily to get off the ground, is like you say, there was nobody on the team, and I don't think to this day that understands marketing. They just keep looking, so it's not working well. Let us look over the fence and see what Click Dimensions or HubSpot's doing and figure out what we did wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. And the whole first party apps are this idea that we have a solution to your problem without asking you what your problem is.
Yeah.
Buy this application. It'll solve your problem, even though we haven't asked you what your fucking problem is. I don't know. I'm sorry, guys, if I feel like I'm a little bit of a tear, but to some of this stuff, just Mark and I both, we steam. This is the kind of shit we used to talk about before we had you guys on the call. Just steam about some of these really, really dumb moves.
So just other things going on at the moment. I've seemed to be hit up a lot lately on LinkedIn with folks that are very uncertain about their careers, and even probably more than just that. So not just the COVID effect of what's going on now, but also how do you move your career forward, and how do you, especially if you want to do things like change countries or anything like that, which is really a non-event at the moment. Nobody's changing countries. How do you stand out from everybody else that's gone out and done their certifications, which seems to be kind of like there's been a massive push in the last 24 months on being certified, but everybody's been certified now. Even partners were driving for people to get certified to maintain their gold competencies and stuff. It's easy to get certified.
You and I had talked before about that. That won't be an advantage when everybody's certified.
Yeah. I was having a conversation the other day with another MVP, and he goes, are you up to date with all your certifications? And I'm like, I'm probably done with certifications, right? I've sat so many bloody exams off my career. All I'm doing is putting money in the examiner's pocket, so to speak, Microsoft, but I'm like, nobody engages me because if I have a certification or not anymore. Right? That's not why they engage me. So I'm done with it. I don't think I will be sitting another exam. That's how I'm kind of feeling at the moment, because once again, there's no differentiator when everybody has it. And how do you stand out though now? What would your advice be to these folks that are saying, how do I stand out from the pile of 100 CVs that are sitting in that recruiter's inbox for that functional consultant, for that architecture role, for that developer role?
I would say the first thing is don't be like Mark, because Mark doesn't need certifications. You're not in a business model where you need them, and you've got a reputation in the marketplace. But if you're out there and you'd have neither, then certifications, it's a minimum bar.
It's the minimum. I totally agree. I say if you don't have experience, you need qualification.
Yeah, and that's the only thing you can point at as proof that you have it, unless you've got a reputation out there where you don't need it, like Mark. But assuming that you don't have that reputation, you're going to need to be able to point to something. And the other thing about certifications is the product is changing a lot, and it, particularly if you're outside of the loop. You and I kind of study it, very closely, so we know what's going on. But a lot of folks that are working in organizations, they got their certification, they got their head down working with customer environments, they're not up to speed because they don't have time to be with what's happening, what new thing has been launched, what it's for, and this, that, and the other. So being recertified, kind of forces every now and then that, hey, your staff out there who was pretty good is going to go, have to learn the new stuff.
Yeah.
If you don't learn the new stuff, you're going to be fucked too, right? You'll just be eclipsed. I mean, we see that right now with a lot of the offshore companies. That it's one of the challenges with offshore is that most of their staff is behind the curve. They're not current. They're still working in the old days of old stuff, and that's not what customers are buying today.
Good shout there from Rachel around getting noticed and getting on the radar. I think that's very, very important. One thing, actually, I just want to. I was chatting with a guy in the UK this week, doing a one-on-one session with him, and around applying for jobs. And the idea is, the CV still relevant? And the thing is, it's no longer a CV. You need to have about 1,000 CVs.
Yeah.
Right? So what I'm saying is this. You should create a master CV template document. And in that is everything. It's all your experiences. It's all your successes. It's all your qualifications. It's all your unrelated things. It's all your, I'm a good communicator, I'm a good team player lines, have all that. That's your master CV. Then when you go for a job, you should be keeping one thing in mind with the CV that you send to that job. And it should be an extracted CV. In other words, delete out of that CV everything that's not relevant to that job, right? Trim it right down, right? A good book has been trimmed a lot. The editor chop till the distilled goodness is left, right? And what you want to do is then make sure that your CV mirrors the job you're going for. Make it look like that CV has almost been written for the job, right? And I'm not saying lie or cheat or do anything like that. I'm saying make sure, and this goes back to, winning global awards and stuff with Microsoft. We would look at the criteria. We would look at exactly what they were looking for, and we wrote our submission as though it'd been written just for that winning award. And of course, what would happen? We'd win the award, right? This is the thing is, when you go and take your tangent and you're going to be innovative and you're going to do blah, 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 and tell about your kumbaya sessions here, and it's not relevant to the job, the person looking at the CV, going through them is just like, yep, just like the other one, full of shit. The one that comes through that mirrors, they're like, what the fuck? This is a perfect candidate. This is exactly what I'm looking for. And this thing, I think there needs to be way more creativity in how you do your cover letter. It should be 100% written for the job. And your CV should be 100% a extraction of your big master CV tailored for that job. I think absolutely critical.
I agree. I mean, I've seen too many in the past when I was looking to hire people, resumes come in that you can tell it was a spray and pray effort by the applicant. He logged on somewhere, he blasted a copy to me and 500 other people of the same cover letter, the same CV, and then sits there and says, I don't understand, nobody will even give me an interview. Well, you did, like you say, because to do what you just talked about requires some effort. I mean, you've got to almost tailor that for each job opportunity you're trying to go after. And that requires some effort. But if it moves you to the top of the pile, then it's effort worthwhile. I mean, the goal isn't to send out 1,000 resumes and get no interviews. The goal is to get 12 different interviews so you can pick the fucking job you want.
Yeah.
And I would say puffery. I don't know if that's a term globally, but it's a term my father used to use that term. He says, that sounds like a bit of puffery to me.
Never heard of it.
But basically,
I just feel like you're a master of it, though.
Basically, he was implying about some level of exaggeration of one's credentials or capabilities. And there's a fine line, and I think it's probably a nicer way of saying you exaggerated, is saying a bit of puffery there.
Yeah.
But if you don't if you don't puff a little bit, you're going up against a bunch of resumes that are complete fictional about that person's capabilities.
Yeah.
And the problem is, as someone on the other end looking at those resumes, we already know that this is a piece of paper full of exaggerations. There's probably some truth in each of these things they're talking about, but I was responsible for the team that saved $6 million. Okay, were you actually responsible? Was it $6 million? Was the team yourself? I mean, we're going to assume there's some puffery in that statement.
Yeah.
So if you're completely honest and say, I was a junior member, intern on a team that had something to do with something else that might have saved the company some, you know what I mean? That's not impressive.
Yeah.
So I'm not telling people to go out and bald-faced lie on their resumes, but
No.
you better lean as positively a spin as you can put on something.
Yeah.
But I love
like
your
50,000 people attending, right?
Yes, exactly. But I think the idea of a template is perfect. I mean, just delete anything that's not relevant to that job before you send it. We are out.
We're at
Wow.
timeout. Thanks, everyone.